Hey everyone, fair warning. I've got some bad news for me and some good news for you. The bad news is that I have been sick as a dog. Are dogs notoriously sick? Where did that even come from? Anyway, sorry, I've been sick for about a week now and I just cannot be bothered to set up my camera and my lights and all that extra nonsense. That's the bad news. The good news is that instead of looking at my stupid face, you get to see some video game footage instead. And if a game stands out to you, you'll likely be like, holy cow, what is that game? I'm going to put a list of each game that I show in the description down below that like button. So if something does jump out, scroll down, click like, and then find out all of the games that are listed. They'll be in order. And with that down, I want to talk today about a problem that has been rearing its ugly head recently on Steam. Clean up some misinformation about it, as well as talk about what Valve can do about it. And that threat is malware. No, not you, Denuvo, although I'd be very happy to see that garbage go away. And I mean literal malware. Though I'm sure if you look in the comments section down below, someone will call it malware.
What's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
So Valve just delisted this game from Steam because the demo had malware. Now, it's important to point out that this sounds a whole lot worse than it actually is. And I'm sure hearing me say that, I'm sure that some of you are thinking, I don't know, Bill, that sounds pretty cut and dry. The demo contained malware. That is bad, bad, bad. And I agree. That's horrible. But for all the people that read the headline and didn't read the article, which I found over at cyberinsider.com, the demo was never actually on Steam. I've also seen people unhappy with cyberinsider.com saying that their headline is clickbait, but I don't think it's clickbait. They just didn't put every single detail in the headline. If you are somebody that expects a headline or YouTube title to contain all of the information, then you're probably also the kind of person that sends an entire email message in the subject line. And if that's you, stop it. Get some help. Anyway, rant aside, if the malware wasn't on Steam, then where was it? Well, I'll tell you where it wasn't, and that's in the sponsor of this video. As a tech channel, I have tons of stuff here in the NerdNest that needs to be charged, like a ridiculous amount. No matter what device I'm using, it always gets charged with UGREEN products. They've been a sponsor of the show for I think 2 years at this point, and I keep going back to them because their stuff is just that good. But I've never seen a box like this from them. This is the UGREEN Cross Genshin Impact series, and this specifically is the Kinich themed fast charging adventure kit, which comes with this limited edition 5-star Kinich themed design with Kinich splash art, AHAO boot animation on the battery bank, and an AHAO cable organizer. The power bank is right there with UGREEN's other devices: 100 watt single port output, 130 watt dual port output, and it has a huge 20,000 milliamp hour battery with a display that shows off AHAO when you turn it on. They also have included a 65 watt charger that can charge up to 3 devices at the same time, as well as a bunch of other Genshin themed loot. So keep your devices topped off using UGREEN and now Genshin Impact. Check out the links in the description down below for up to 30% off and enter UGREEN's massive giveaway. And a big thank you to UGREEN for sponsoring this video. The pathway to get you to install this was to put their game on the Steam store, put the malware in the demo, but rather than put the demo on Steam where Valve would probably detect it, we'll talk more about that later, put the demo on their website and hope that somebody clicks the link to their website in order to try out the game. Once this was noticed by people on Reddit, the dev defended themselves, saying it's not my fault. They said, we'd like to clarify the situation regarding the website that was previously listed as our official site on Steam. The link has been removed because it's no longer under our control. Initially, we planned to create an official website, but that domain was not registered in our name in time. Unfortunately, before we could secure it, it was purchased by a third party, and we had no control over what was done with it. We apologize for any confusion and appreciate your understanding and support. Ah, yes, the old "it wasn't me" defense. Parents, you know how this goes. You ask your kid who left the fridge open, and the kid says it wasn't me, and you and the kid are the only two people in the house, and you know that you didn't do it. Now, I'm not saying that they're definitely lying, but I'm very skeptical. You can register a domain incredibly fast. It takes absolutely zero time. Putting a link to a website that you don't own and doesn't actually exist yet just sounds stupid. Now, my usual policy is that I never attribute behavior to malice that I could otherwise attribute to ineptitude, but I'm just really struggling to apply that policy in this particular situation. Perhaps I'm wrong, and I hope that I am, but I, for one, would not install anything from this dev now or in the future. Not that I'm telling you not to, I'm just saying what I would do. Okay, so a bit ago, I said it wasn't as bad as it sounds, and I think that I've justified that because the headline made it sound like the malware was actually hosted on Steam, and it wasn't, right? Well, we have had malware hosted on Steam in the past. Back in February, Valve did have to remove a game from its storefront, and that game was called Pirate Fi. Rather than a demo, it was a free-to-play game that was actually hosted on Steam this time, but Valve has since removed it. Not only that, but the asshats trying to inject malware into your computer were reaching out to people via Telegram with job offers. They were offering jobs for a chat moderator for the free-to-play game for $17 an hour. Someone was talking to the company about this job. They noticed that every time that a message was sent, it was exactly 20 seconds later, which screams a bot. There's a huge red flag there. All right, so clearly this game was a scam. Allegedly a scam. What did Valve do about it? Well, first, they removed it. Nice first move. Then they contacted anyone who had installed it. Here's the email. We strongly encourage you to run a full system scan using an antivirus product that you trust or use regularly and inspect your system for unexpected or newly installed software. Now, that's a great response from Valve for the Pirate Fi case, but in the case of the recent issue, the malware wasn't on Steam. It was on another website, so Valve has no way of knowing who installed it and then warning them. I suppose they could email anyone that looked at that game on Steam, or just the people who clicked on that link. I would assume that they would have that information, but maybe not. I don't know how their back end works. But my point here is that this isn't the first time, and it certainly won't be the last time that we see this kind of thing happen on Steam. So what can Valve do about this? I'm sure that Valve scans for malware when a game is uploaded, but I don't think it's possible to get 100% accuracy. What is Valve's process for making sure that the things that do get through are safe, though? I don't think that they can tell us that, because if they did, then the dirtbags would probably be it would be easier for these dirtbags to find a way around Valve's safeguards. That's why they can't tell us what they're doing. Quick aside here, I've been hacked before in the past, and it was an absolute nightmare to get everything back. They hacked my Amazon account, and they used it in conjunction with somebody else's stolen credit cards in order to buy literally thousands of dollars of PS4 gift cards. I was locked out of my Amazon account for weeks while Amazon was doing an investigation, but ever since then, I've always been using 1Password for everything. They're not sponsoring this video, but if you are worried about the security of all of your accounts, I highly recommend it. Anyway, back to the story. I think in addition to booting devs off Steam that do this kind of thing, I wonder if Valve could sue them for causing damage to their brand. Not because Valve needs the money, but as a deterrent, because this kind of thing could hurt Valve in a big way. They've recently been putting together Steam Next Fest, which are these awesome events that Valve hosts where tons and tons of different developers, they put out demos for their games so that you can try a bunch of different games and add them to your wish list to pick up later. Plus, they're usually on sale at the same time. I said this recently, and I've been saying it for years. If a developer believes in their game, if a publisher believes in their game, then they should put out a demo, because all it does is increase sales. And anytime I see
a company, you know, publishers or developers that don't put out a demo. I know that it costs some extra money to make a demo, so it's not always the case that they don't believe in their game. But this kind of behavior could hurt Steam Next Fest and Valve in general in the future, because demos are usually the vectors that this could go through because they are free, and thus it's easier for them to get people to install. Though suing them might not actually be a good solution. I'm no lawyer. Maybe the offending party is in some other country that makes it too hard for Valve to pursue. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a security expert. I just know that we need some kind of deterrent to keep the trust on the store. But what do you think about this? Does it make you less likely to check out demos during the next Steam Next Fest? Or do you feel safe for the most part on Steam? Let me know in the comment section down below that like button. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching, and stay rad.